Hi, Susan here. Okay, in the last teaching segment, we draped this basic yoke on the dress form. Now we're going to put a dirndl skirt underneath that, and that's what's next. Okay, a dirndl skirt is a straight skirt cut with extra fullness. And it can either be at the waistline, design line, or yoke. And this gathered skirt could either be cut on the lengthwise part of the grain or the crosswise part of the grain for more billowing out and fullness. All right, let's get on the table so I can show you what you need for this project. The supplies you're going to need for this project: your L square, hip curve, 2" by 18" clear plastic ruler, tape measure, thin elastic. I'm going to be using a marker so you can see better. You're going to need pencils, styling tape, either satin or this adhesive, and fabric scissors, and pins, of course. Let me show you what to do with the muslin next. With the muslin, you're going to have to tear a piece of muslin 39 inches wide by 22.5 inches long. Then you're going to block and press it. That means pulling it on the diagonal, checking it in all the corners with your L square, and pressing it going either crosswise or lengthwise to lock in those fibers. Then you're going to turn back 1 inch on the right side and pull a grain or draw a line 1 inch, fold that back, and that's going to be called your center front. You're going to do the same thing on the other side. You're going to fold under 1 inch, and you're going to call that the center back. Then you're going to divide this piece of muslin in half. After you get to the 37 is what it's going to be when those 1 inches are done. And then you're going to draw or pull a line in the center of that muslin. After that point, you're going to mark a 2" marking from the top of the torn edge and put a marking. From there, you're going to put another 4.5" marking here. That's going to be our hip level. And that you can use your L square as well. So you can just go ahead and put it along the center front or the center back and draw in that line, because actually pulling that grain will be quite difficult. After you get that, you're going to be the side seam that divided portion, and from that side seam to the center front, you're going to divide that in half, and you're going to also pull a grain all the way just to the hip level. You're going to do the same thing on this side. Okay, once you get your muslin prepared and it's pressed, let's get on the dress form now. The first thing I want to do is take off this yoke, and the reason why I'm doing that is because I want to see a clear black line underneath that gathered muslin so I can see the marking properly. So I'm just going to take off the yoke, and if you didn't want to follow my yoke that I showed you in the last segment, you can make your own design line with your adhesive tape and just go away with your own design and follow the same type of procedure. All right, let's get started. Over the muslin to the dress form now. And we're going to place that 2" marking that we have here at the style line tape, just like that. And we're going to secure the entire front of this center front to the dress form. Okay, after you do that, you want to carry it over and do the same thing in the back. We're going to take that 2" marking that we have here, and I'm going to put it right on the style tape, just like that, and secure it at the center back all the way along that seam. After you get that done, you want to put just a quick pin, doesn't matter where, here at the side seam, at that side seam marking. Now that we have this, we have all this fullness, right? Okay, and just to let you know, the reason why I did not slit it at the side seam and make it in two sections is because it's a lot simpler to get it right this way. You can drape it this way, but if your fabric is not wide enough and you don't want a center front seam, you can do it later by cutting this and making the pattern in two sections with a center front on the fold and the center back maybe with a seam allowance, if that makes sense. I'll show you that on the flat. All right, normally my French draping method is just taking your pins and going from the left to the right and just pinching a piece of ease, just moving it over like that. That's the French draping style to do small tucks and gathers. So you would just want to take this and go over like that. That is only really necessary if you have an unusual design line. Let's say my design line curves like this. Then you would have to use this process. But we're going to do a simpler process that's more accurate, and that's using the elastic. So now you get your thin elastic just like this, and we're going to actually wrap it around the dress form, catching the muslin all the way around like this, and tying a tight knot on it. Be any thin elastic that you have, it doesn't even matter what color, right? And we're just going to do that. Now we have all this gathered just like this, and we can maneuver it properly and make sure that this grain line is good. So, okay, so now what we're going to do is just simply maneuver the gathers so that it actually will fall properly. I hope you can see this better. This mannequin does not go up or down, so I have to kind of adjust myself to it. All right, so then you take your large pin, and what you're going to do is going to adjust the muslin with your pin just to move the gathers all along that line. Just moving the gathers all along that line like that. At the same time, you're going to be watching this grain line. You see this grain line? This has to be parallel to the floor. It has to be even. So you're just going to move it. You want to have this indication here where the princess seam is. That's your halfway point, more or less. And then you're just going to maneuver it. Maneuver it with your pin like that, or your fingers. And just maneuver it all the way across. And you're going to notice it's not going to be completely straight up here, and that is because you're going to need more for the side seam, so it won't be straight. But as long as this line is nice and parallel to the floor, you are good. So here we go. I'm just maneuvering it with my pins or your fingers, and you're just using that with the elastic till you get it right. Here at the princess seam, and then you just want to push the gathers and manipulate the gathers so that it is evenly distributed wherever it needs to be. Styling tape is not hitting your design tape as well. You can then just pin it down and adjust that. So that's all you're really doing, is you're just kind of maneuvering it, just like that. And there's your billowing out, nice, basic dirndl skirt. Just going to maneuver it like that. You want them to be nice little gathers, so just keep maneuvering that till you have it. And there you go. And once you have that right, this line is nice and parallel. Nice and parallel. You've got your softly draped dirndl skirt. It's good. Okay, we have that all adjusted nicely. Now we're going to go to the front and make sure that's nice and adjusted. I think we have it nice and adjusted all the way around. And there you go. Just want to make sure it's even. And you feel that you have it, just make sure that your elastic is on the styling tape, so you can then put pins to secure it on the styling tape itself. Like that, on the styling tape. And then I'm going to take a marker, but you can use your pencil. I'm just going to dot now. Just dot along that styling tape. Just all the way along the styling tape. And you hopefully can see the black underneath the elastic. so that you can have a good accurate line. And I'm just dotting all the way along where that styling tape is with the black marker tape. And you're finished. Let's get on the flat now. On the flat, and you can see all the markings, hopefully. We're just going to fill it in with our hip curve. And we're just going to follow the dots as much as we can. And I'm going to mark it. And we're going to make sure that it's perpendicular for at least 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch there at the center front. And then just take your hip curve. And I'm going to fix it a little bit because that was too low there. So I'm just going to put in the majority of the dots. And go ahead and put those dots as much as I can. Following the majority of the dots, which is truing. It's going down a little bit here. And here. And then this one is going up a little bit, it looks like. And follow those dots. Okay, after that, I'm going to cut a 1/2 of an inch seam allowance. Parallel lines all the way along that design line for my cutting line. Just follow the curve of that line. And go ahead and put in your seam allowance with your 2-inch wide ruler. Just follow the lines. Move your ruler to adjust to the curve, just like that. Once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and cut on the cutting line. Okay, here's where you can cut here if you'd like and separate this pattern and make this portion on the fold and add seam allowance to both this portion and this portion so that you can have this on the fold, because this area right here is already about 18. So let's say you have fabric that's less than 45 inches wide, you would then have to cut and put a seam here. If you had fabric 60 inches wide, you might not have to cut if you have 60 inches wide, because then you can just put it on the fold and then have the seam allowance on that side. I'm going to now gather this up right here, attach it to the yoke, and we'll get on the dress form again. Oh, before that, I'm going to make a quick hem. 1.5 inches from the bottom. I'm going to draw a line. Pin it up just like this, with pins going up and down every, let's say, couple of inches, and then I'll be right back. I'm going to show you briefly that I gathered up the skirt, put 1 row of gathers, pulled it, and I'm just pinning the yoke back to the skirt area. And I'm just going to do it here on the center back, and I'm putting the pins up and down, pinching a piece of ease and going up just like that. And then this is where the princess seam is. I'm going to find where that halfway point is here, and I'm going to put a pin there so I can adjust the gathers properly. And then you're just going to pull the gathers till it fits, and put pins every, let's say, inch that's all that's necessary. So I'm just going to put a pin about 1 inch away. Pin it up like that. And I'll be right back. Here I am with the finished dirndl skirt put on the dress form. I have it secured at the center front and the center back. I have my pinches of ease at the waistline put in, and it's draping beautifully. And so there is your dirndl skirt. and we'll see you in the next lesson. Thank you. Bye-bye.